Maybe things like the Akali as well, right? You wanted to see it become a high priority in pick and ban in this final game between LNG and FPX. That too, of course, has been banned away. Lulu, first pick. You are sacrificing a little bit here for LNG, but it's a flexible pick.
It's very flexible indeed. You can opt into a Kog'Maw down towards the bottom lane. You can opt in for Zhao together with Tarzan again, as we just saw before. Now, of course, there is a lot of priority picks coming through, because if you go for the Lulu, FPX, I can only imagine they'd like to pick up this Varus as well themselves, just because he gives you that reliable poke as a backliner. It's very stable laning phase. First pick, though, is going to be that Nocturne, and we talk about ease of execution, Hysterics. It's very easy to create a dog pile composition together with Nocturne. It's literally paranoia and fly into the target you see.
I mean, he has 100% presence. He's the only champion left, I believe, with 100% presence, apart from Renekton. Excuse me, sets dropped a little bit there, so it's something that falls through. Every team's going to pick it up, and the Varus was already mentioned there. So 2 strong power picks for FPX, which changes the way they play this composition. A lot of range created here through the Varus. The engage we talked about with the Bruiser Nocturne. But you are going against potential Cog Lulu or a team that is going to get buffed up by the shielding available.
Yeah, so either you opt in for support here, but I think it could be quite crucial securing the Ezreal here. You already know the Varus is going to be dealing a lot of poke. I think Ezreal is the only AD carry left for that, and you can already see they're going in for a lot of backline dive here. So you want to be able to have an AD carry that's got mobility. You don't want to be stuck on the Jinx again. So I'd very much like if they lock in this Ezreal pick. Okay. And now onto the side of FPX, they can either go for a strong solo lane on 3 here, like the Akali, where you can ban out some of the strong champions you can go up against, or they can go for defensive support like the Braum, like the Tahm Kench that we've seen earlier.
Tahm Kench especially, right, pairs up quite nicely. Maybe setting up a solid form of engage with the Solar Flare, the Zenith Blade as well on this Leona. Something that Chris has played so well and loves roaming with too. So this makes a lot of sense. Instead of going for the Tahm Kench, you've got a solid game plan for FPX to start building foundations from.
Yeah, you really have. And now from FPX, I can only imagine they'll start banning out some of these supports. And specifically, you're looking for some combination with Engage here. I actually suspect this Lulu to be a solo lane Lulu, just because it's not the best pairing with Ezreal. And taking a look at the FPX ban, it seems like they think so too. Now, solo laners are still up here, I would imagine. An Akali ban, a Lucian ban perhaps again towards Nuguri or towards Doinb. Kled, also a champion that haven't been picked yet. So there's still a lot of priority targets that I think LNG could remove here in this ban rotation.
I mean, getting rid of TN's Rumble, thinking that, okay, that is definitely going to be a solo lane Nocturne, makes it quite interesting, right? You already mentioned the Kled as well, but you've got to go many different directions with one single ban left remaining. So leaving this Nocturne up, and again, having some of that flexibility on FPX's side as well, feels like a big benefit. While FPX know, all right, we got to get rid of top lane, we got to get rid of support, and something like the Wukong that could facilitate with the Xin Zhao makes a lot of sense.
Very curious onto what's the Ryze ban here coming through. I think they might suspect that they're going to be picking a champion themselves, which is going to have Ryze as a counter here, but I think you could theoretically just go for the Akali here. You don't have to pick your jungler. You could just wait and secure this heavy backline priority champion that we've seen so many teams go for. But no, it's actually going to be the Gwen Hysterics.
So the Gwen coming through, I mean, a lot of teams still aren't too sure about this. Flandre's one who's played it the most. If it goes up against the Akali in the top lane, that'll be a lot of fun. But remember, don't put anything past Doinb. We haven't really seen any Gwen mids from my understanding. I'm just going to have a quick look through. No Gwen mids as of yet in the LPL. We've had one Gwen jungle, of course, so keep that in your back in mind. FPX still playing with the flexes that they've gotten the Nocturne and Gwen.
Yeah, and I think it will be a support they'll lock in here. I can only imagine that's going to be the case, because once again, Lulu Ezreal, not the strongest priority lane you can go for. It is actually going to be the Ezreal, and I want you back on the Rakan. Not the highest success rate he had before, and Rakan does have some issues going into Leona as well, at least laning phase-wise. So that can be quite tough. And now onto the side of FPX, you said it yourself, we have seen one Gwen jungle. So a Sylas could come through into the Akali as well. There's a few ultimates, actually. There's not too many ultimates you'd like, but we know it's a good matchup into the Akali. So there we go. That is going to be the composition of FPX. A lot of backline dive, and the same could be said for LNG, really.
Can really snap into the play, right? Yeah, LNG as well. I think today, your favorite word, which has become my favorite word, is the word dogpiling, because that's what we can do with both of these comps, especially FPX when you lock someone down with Chains of Corruption, or you start with a Paranoia and then everyone goes in. We're going to wait till 20 seconds here, Guldbord, because we need to know that that Nocturne is going towards the jungle here. Again, only one Gwen jungle so far in the LPL, so not expecting it. But as we tick down the timer, Tien will show us his Nocturne in game number 3 after losing the Rumble. And this is why I want to talk about drafts with you, because each and every game has had a different looking draft from both of these teams.
It really has, but this time around, let me rephrase that. Beforehand, it always felt like they had different game plans to go for, but this time around, it really feels like they're going for the same game plan. You take a look on towards the bot lane, it's safe AD carries that got some reliable poke when you get to the mid game. You have some champions here that really just wants to, let's say our favorite word again, dogpile onto the enemy. Yeah. So I think this time around, it's going to be much less of a stale game and a way more proactive game, because a lot of these teams and these champions excel in chaos. You want to be able to control the chaos, make sure the skirmishes can come out on top and you are favored in them. So this game 3 is panning out to be a very, very exciting one, Hysterics.
Oh, it is. We talked about it at the start of the day. Let's remind you, Tarzan versus Tien is where we're keeping our eyes in the jungle influence, but the top lane as well, in terms of individual skill. Ale versus Nuguri have delivered in individual games as we head back to Summoner's Rift for the final time tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that the LCK has ended and you've now joined the better league. And what a time to join us here as best of 3 becomes best of 1. Different picks across the Rift. Lethal tempo Nocturne there as well. Airy on the Lulu mid. Guildborg, where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, we'll start from the top side of the map. I've had the pleasure of casting this matchup one time before, and you can see they've both opted into the decision of not taking Flash. So this Ignite is going to be absolutely crucial. There's a bit of sustain in every champion. You can see both of them went for the Conqueror. Gwen, in the beginning, with the Doran's Blade start, will most likely start E, and with the range she's getting, is going to be able to trade a bit better. But once you hit that level 3, Akali into the melee matchup does fare quite well into it and does have some kill pressure on towards hitting that level 6. So can be Akali favored, but can also be outscaled on side later by the Gwen. Moving into the jungle, once again, Tarzan is probably going to be very much more likely to be a bit more proactive in the early game. And onto the side of the Nocturne, you're always waiting for 6. And here you just see it. You start E on the Gwen with the Doran's Blade, you just snip him down. It's really broken. It's really annoying to play against.
It is, and you know the favorite thing about watching it as well? It's the 100 range you get as well, right? Plus the attack speed. Ale runs into you, and no shuriken flip means no dice, and Ale already at half health, so you talked about level number 3, but if Nuguri gets early lane priority, I mean, we have to throw that out the window and start thinking, well, Nuguri's always going to have EXP diff, he's going to build the wave here, and Ale, like every Akali this series, whether it's been Nuguri or Ale himself last game, have fallen behind in the laning phase, and we have to find out if this game breaks that trend.
Yeah, but you just want to cut your losses. You know the wave is slow pushing towards you. You're going to be picking it up in just a bit, so make the best out of it. Make sure you get that CS on the tower as well. Yep. And then towards the Lulu in the mid lane into the Sylas. She's very much about facilitating the Xin Zhao. It wouldn't surprise me when we start opening up the map a bit more that Lulu is just going to sacrifice a lane and just walk around with the Xin Zhao to try and create skirmishes. That's going to benefit them because they have an enchanter. And then obviously down towards the bot side of the map. I expect Crisp and Lwandy to at some point in time just start roaming, and then it'll just be a little bit of a 1v1 between the Ezreal and the Varus, because they don't really become relevant until the later stages of the game, until we hit that mid game around the 15-minute mark.
True, especially for the Varus, right? We look for a couple of items there, but talking about mid, I just want to remind everyone that people think of Lulu as, yeah, she's a weak champion within lanes, but remember, she's really not. Her poker aggression, Icon has really good trading, can trade through the minion wave, and a lot of the time, Sylas will max Kingslayer, unless it is a really brutal mid lane matchup. Doinb has even gone for the Conqueror here instead of the Fleet Footwork in weaker matchups, so I do think it's worth noting that Doinb will get bullied out a little bit here in the game, but maxing Kingslayer, getting in the gap closed there with Abscond Abduct will be to his benefit, so we'll watch the mid lane trading a little bit further. While Arle's recovered a bit of CS up in this top side, Nuguri went for an early back, picked up a Doran's ring on top of the Doran's blade already. And Tarzan's now up here too, so might have to play a little bit careful as the wave resets and Tarzan, believe he was not spotted.
Yeah, oh, actually, action down in the bot lane, something I'd not anticipated. Ignite came out.
Yes, Lwx does get out, but a low health bar. Iwandy now without the summoner. And remember that you don't have as much sustain in this lane as you do with Iwandy's Gleaming Quill, so that's a nice win for LNG to start off.
Yeah, for sure it is. And now, resets has come through from TN, but have not from Tarzan. So, okay, we can actually see the picture-in-picture, a little bit of a replay there. Seems like Lwx just a step a bit too far forward, but
yeah.
Light wasn't really there for the follow-up. And once again, Tarzan have not reset, so should a skirmish arise where TN is part of it, he's actually going to have a pickaxe advantage, and that is something you most certainly do not want. So, as LNG, you just want to wait a bit for your level 6. You want to wait for Akali to be a champion you can play through. And at that point in time, perhaps you can also start creating some skirmishes around there since Zhao, once he has backed and pick up his first items.
Behind CS right now of TN. TN on the Nocturne here. You already mentioned the pickaxe coming through. Just curious about matching from Tarzan as he finishes off the Wolf Camp. But looking across the Rift right now, I mean, I don't see too many CS advantages apart from a 5 CS from Icon and top lane, of course, we already highlighted. It's still 5 CS up there for the Gwen. Nuguri pushing in, didn't burn his TP to get back to lane. That's also crucial to note. Has about 200 gold lead at this point as well, and I guess we're going to have a more stable laning phase here in the early game Guildbord, so until maybe Nocturne gets level 6, you know, Xin Zhao as well, Icon 6 with Wild Growth. That feels like when we're going to start popping off, unless Crisp can get something done.
Yeah, you're completely right. I will say, though, we are close to hitting level 6 for the Akali up in the top side as well. And I'm curious to see if Ale is going to use any of that to have some kill pressure against the Gwen. Opted in for Sork Boost, so close to dealing, not necessarily 2 damage, but a lot of that penetration is definitely going to amp up the damage, especially when Nuguri haven't opted in for any magic resistor. At least it's going to take some time before that really happens. And, you know, it's interesting with Gwen as well. Because over the different leagues, they all have different approach to what build you're going on towards the Gwen. In Europe, we're very much about going for a split push build, where you go obviously for the Riftmaker, opt into the Nash's Tooth, and then you just kind of cut people down with the attack speed. But over here in the Asian countries, it's very much about going for that Cosmic Drive instead, getting that movement speed and extra AP to stay relevant in team fights. So it's going to be curious to see what approach FPX takes for that one.
And even on top of that, right, it's like, if it's not Cosmic Drive, it's going to be the Zhonya's Hourglass. It's all about the team fight, as you said. I think it's really good to look at because, yeah, it's a very different league, very different goals, right? We have a lot more skirmishing here. We have a lot more earlier team fights as well. And hitting the 2-item Gwen is all about buying time and making sure you can get your resets, so you get your snips, so you can get your needlework charges as well. And make sure you're kind of more relevant. It's interesting to watch. There's Tarzan up in this top side. Even more interesting, it seems. Starting the red buff, Nuguri walking in as well. Needlework is still available. Ale has now hit his ult as well. So we have similar kill threat. This is when it should start spicing up as Tien's trying to get to 6-2 so we can get Nuguri ahead.
Yeah, he for sure is. And close to hitting level 6. You can see just one more camp and he's going to get it. I think he's just going to kill this Grox camp and he's going to be looking up towards the top side of the map. Tarzan did just back, so there's no help for Ale once this engage happens. No flash either. So he needs to make sure not to go in here now. He doesn't have Shuriken Flip either, but it seems like he's going to respect it. There is a slow, stacked minion wave pushing in towards him, so he doesn't really need to do much here. So it looks like Tian is just going to utilize that Paranoia elsewhere. But the first Paranoia Hysterics is always crucial onto Nocturne. The level 1 cooldown is fairly long, so you want to make sure that once that is up, you get the most out of it. Because it just tells the other team that, alright, Paranoia is down for a good while. We can play way more aggressive than we initially could into a Nocturne with level 6. And that can make it harder for FPX, especially around this long laning phase which we're getting in this kind of skirmish. But Rift Herald has been started up and bot lane is moving up from the side of LNG. I think we might get our first fight here. Yeah,
Ale's walked in trying to buy time. Paranoia has been used by FPX's needlework over the wall. Ale's there as well. Tieni takes him and isolates him as well. First blood over to LNG, but Nuguri has started sniffing away. Good shielding here from Icon as Tarzan runs into it, gets a numbers advantage. And for FPX, bit of danger time here, but Nuguri's managed to secure the the Herald. On top of Icon, he's snipping again. It's a double kill time, Shuriken flip. Once again, Lwandy and Light want to take him down, and Ale can't go back in. Gets some healing, but dies in the end. A 3 for 2. LNG win out, but Herald over to the FunPlus Phoenix.
Yeah, and at the same time, the AD carry also got a lot of farm down towards that bot side of the map. FPX, Lwx rather, got to push in, get a play, get a few minions, but still, I gotta say, that's a skirmish where you come out on head, or rather out on top, as LNG. Ale here on the Akali. Look at him patiently waiting for Tian to flash over. And then even though he misses the perfect execution, the Shuriken flip with the 5-pound strike is enough to actually take him down. Tarzan with a great ultimate to keep him alive for a longer while. And then about this time, it starts to get a bit uncoordinated from the side of LNG. They're not sure who they need to focus, and Doinb with the Kingslayer gets the healing, gets the little level up there, I actually think, as well, on towards the kill, and he stays alive, but Nuguri falls and gives double buff over to Light. So taking Stagger's inventories right now, you can see Leeching Leah has come through from both top laners actually, but looking at the gold, actually fairly even still across all members. You can see Lwx 3,500, about the same on Light, and they're just going to continue with this one. They're starting up the Drake. And Nuguri has moved down here as well. Ale doesn't have TP, so I think this is just going to go over to FPX.
Especially when Lwx has the lethality items this early on. You know, Ezreal with the Sheen, Phage, not bad, but let's remember as Tarzan steals away. Let me hold that thought. Nuguri's in a bit of trouble. Shuriken flip over the wall, but wind becomes lightning, doesn't connect. Nuguri can back away here, but you can see FPX pinging down. LNG know that the follow-up re-engage is going to be there, so they back off, almost finding Nuguri in the play. But I want to come back to what I was saying there. You know, you've got Lethality Varus, who's almost towards that mythic item, now with the tier stacking up as well. It feels like you have to pay a lot of respect to Lwx, pay respect to his ulti as well, especially if we have a skirmish like that where the chains of corruption can spread, and maybe Lwx doesn't even get the fight. Down he goes. Light does the damage. Lwandy does the knocker.
And from the way Lwandy played, it felt like he knew Lwx didn't have any flash, but he did have a flash. He just didn't have the time to actually react to it. Light, arcane shifted forward. Lwandy eat onto him, flash together with the quickness to get the grand entrance, and it was just easy picking there. Lwx getting caught in a position where he's certainly not meant to.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like after just talking about him, oh, he's a threat, we got to watch out, and Lwx in the middle of the lane by himself while Crisp is roaming up towards the top side. They're at least trying to put pressure down on this turret, which Nuguri sets up thanks to the Herald he picked up with a quick snip. 2-1 now, has a lot of turret plating, goes back in, does quite a lot of damage at this point in the game as well. Close to getting the Riftmaker as well. I think that's the important part here, that Nuguri is definitely in the lead in this top lane, even though the Akali has a kill. But here on the Gwen, we know that snowballing Gwens in the LPL have been able to take over.
Oh yeah, they most definitely has, and it's just due to the nature of the champion really as well. Does so well in longer extended skirmishes, get a lot of healing in there. So I think anti-healing as well is going to be crucial on LNG. You have the Sylas Kingslayer, and you have the Gwen, and you possibly have the Nocturne. Oh, Nocturne probably opts into the Strikebreaker, but still a lot of healing onto the side of FPX, and you can already see Icon opted as a first item into the Oblivion Orb, which I assume will actually go towards a Chemtech Putrefier instead of the Morella Nomicon. At least I would like to see that.
That's a good point. I mean, it has been optimal item for our Lulu mids, and there you go. There's a Bandleglass Mirror, so we know at the very least we're going to be seeing, you know, the full-on support Lulu. Nothing out of the ordinary. Icon here, his role towards the team you already mentioned, towards people like Tarzan, even Light, you can say, alongside Lwandy. And it's a good game to do so, right? We've got a game where LNG have got their supports in... Gonna sneeze away that in a decent position. It wasn't really a good point to hold on. Thank you very much. But, I mean, Light's in a good position now. Ale as well, I just mentioned too. Even Tarzan, you know, has his first mythic item. So, even though Nuguri's got a lot of gold in his back pocket, LNG have started this game off, this game number 3, in a very decent position.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like the Avengers where it's kind of, we have a Hulk. That's kind of what FPX have right now, but with Nuguri, because the rest of the members are kind of falling behind. And you can see LNG, yes, top lane is quite dominated But right now, towards the rest of the map, they are definitely in charge.
Oh, and they're engaging. Lwx has to burn double summoner straight away. Quickness into the backline. Lwx should be dead here. Ignite Gleaming Quill, but the re-engage from FPX, they've cornered them down. Wild Growth stolen away, I believe. Tien is absolutely massive, surviving with his lethal tempo, but this doesn't look too good. Tarzan cleaning them up. The license to kill is still there. And LNG do it again.
And we just continue with that analogy. You have that Hulk up in the top side. That's Nuguri. He gets all the gold. But LNG right now, they have a team. And they're determined to take down the bot side of FPX. Still very even in gold due to different strengths lying elsewhere on the map. Top side of the map, FPX really strong. Bot side of the map for LNG, super strong as well. This game is still very much competitive despite all the kills going over to LNG.
Man, I've been impressed with Lwandy through this series. I'm still impressed. I mean, setting up for the engage, it was a nice pick. Double summoners blown straight away, and FPX wanted to double down on that. All they get is the top lane turret. Let's have a look again, Guildbord, because diving through the turret, I don't think we expected this from Tarzan.
No, I really did not. And honestly, despite Lwx going down, he had a really good chance of corruption to stop the Rakan mid W. And then we come down to the skirmishing. I thought it looked so chaotic. The fact that Light gets to Arcane Shift out of this one and stay alive despite getting stunned, really is just making matters worse. Because if you were able to get that shot down onto a carry, at least you would have gotten something great out of the situation as FPX. But they just get nothing. It's only the top side of the map that get anything in.
Yeah, so Nuguri versus the world feels like the course of action here for game number 3. Everyone else doing well. Ale waiting for his prey that Ashura can flip time, and he's straight into the Hallowing Mist. Ale gets snipped around. Nita worked down as well. You thought it was over. The execution, no! Both walk away with only a bit of health.
And you know, it's a crucial Hallowed Mist that actually dodged one 5-punch strike. Had that come through, Nuguri probably would have gone down, but with both top laners forced to back. Oh, no, they're actually TPing in.
It's stolen. It's stolen. FPX has stolen the dragon. Number 2, Chains of Corruption has spread. This is what we talked about. Nuguri's joined in as well. Into the backline, they've got Lwandy. They've got themselves a bigger beefcake as well. FPX low health bars, though, as Light joins the fray. Ale in as well. Gets 1, gets 2, and now it's up to Nuguri yet again. But there's too many people left alive, and FPX are cleaned once more. LNG are coming out of the woodwork.
And crucially, Nuguri's shutdown just went over to Ale as well, so that's a lot of extra gold you can spend on towards the Akali. Right now, it just seems like LNG has the better setup. Yes, the Drake got stolen, but FPX only sitting at 2. It's not a threat yet, and with the gold lead that LNG got after this fight, it's only looking like they'll be able to secure the 3rd one. But once again, good start from Tien, and I actually like the Chains of Corruption coming through as well. They had the TP advantage. Ale not able to TP in due to the paranoia, but right now, the rest of the members of LNG are just so much further ahead. They have the Enchanter to work with as well, and all the HP bars are so low when Ale is finally able to get in here. He's able to pick up the fight, and it's shut down. Going over to Ale as well is only making matters worse.
Both top laners big, but Ale reaching him is not a good thing here for FPX. They're behind in gold. They're behind in tempo. It's 3,000 on the top of the scoreboard for you. All they have is dragons here to try and pressure the game. And let's be realistic, the bottom lane this game are doing real nice stuff as Crisp is roaming down, but Ale's already out of there. And Lwandy on this Rakan, 10 out of 11 kill participation, has been on point this game. And I think throughout this series as well. I mean, Lwandy has been a great support throughout the league, we should say. So Locker picked up, able to dive into the backline, and now FPX will stem some of the bleeding here with this turret, but Guildbord, I mean, there's Herald. That'll bring even more tempo into the game for them.
I agree with you, and I'm going to say something a bit controversial here, Hysterics, as well. I think Lwandy is outperforming Crisp in this series. I think Crisp has a really good series on towards the Tankenge, but afterwards, it kind of felt, it kind of felt like Lwandy was just on top of the play here, and he's kind of making good use of his teammates here under to the Rakan. He's not being a frontliner per se. You can say when the team fight starts out, he kind of he waits in the back and he eases on towards the teammates, and that's out of nowhere how he starts these engages. This time around, he didn't even use the Grand Entrance to use it. He just used the quickness to stack up 3 members. Then he got the Grand Entrance down and got a 3-man knockup, which was crucial for the rest of his team to pick up the kills. I think he's done a stellar performance onto the Rakan.
I mean, he really has, and is someone who, again, goes underrated here in the LPL. Alongside, you know, the facilitating staff in this game, that is Icon, we have to highlight as well. At this point, Ale, Tarzan Light, the core damage dealers in this composition, and LNG still looking real good here. I'm curious about the next fight, because if LNG are able to push some momentum, bring some of these second items, third items to the Rift, feels like FPX definitely can't fight it, and you know, LNG are going to get a free couple of objectives on Summoner's Rift.
But historically, over the course of this series, they should have time if it goes like the other games. Both games had been at least 30 minutes long. It's come down to multiple Barons, but with this second Herald, you can see LNG, they're really looking to accelerate. They might even get a third charge on towards the turret.
And they should. Inhibitor turret at the ready. Tien here to wave clear, but third charge going to come through. Tarzan just walks up, but it's smited down. Nuguri baited in. Need to work there. Everyone at half HP. Look at what Doinb's doing in the bottom side of the map. You see, bottom left of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, he trades off the inner turret. That's something for FPX, but LNG, I think, better off that they didn't go too far. Nuguri still does a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And once again, good cross maps to come through. So despite not having a Herald, they still kind of trade even with that one for Doinb. But reset should come through now. 1 minute until that infernal Drake Hysterics. And FPX could be looking to make themselves onto Soul Point. But you talked a bit about it. I don't think they're in a position where they're going to be able to contest it. I think the game plan for FPX now is just going to be, all right, we're going to give up this third Drake. We're just going to let LNG stack their stack in first now. And then we're just going to wait for our items so we feel confident enough when we finally get them to fight. And specifically for Varus, that's around those 3 items. You want to get that Cyrilda Scrotch. You want to get the Muramana to come through as well for your poke to just half HP the rest of the members. And when you get to that point, you can start the dogpiling as well. You can poke them out. You can come in with Tien. You can walk in with Doinb, who's stoling away Ale's ultimate. And then you can start to look for the fights. But FPX posturing like they actually want to contest this objective. Very surprising to me.
Doinb stolen away the Xin Zhao ultimate. Present guard at the ready. Note that we do have Nuguri with 2 items now as well if the Gwen comes in, but it is a Nash's Tooth that we can talk about after the fight. Dragon's been started up. Tien with ulti. He's a level 11 Nocturne. And Ale sitting behind. Vision denied. He's going to lens here. It's actually still picked up by the control ward. Poke coming through from Lwx. Tien getting zoned away. Lwandy on the backside. Look at where our Lwandy is. Paranoia in as well. Dragon secured by LNG, but FPX already taking a huge chunk thanks to Ale, who's at full HP. Nuguri there as well. Chains corruption to disengage. Quickness into the backline. 4-man knockup from Lwandy as well. Lwx still alive, but FPX are being blown apart. Light can arcane shift in, and it looks oh so fine. Doinb as well, blown to asunder, and Crisp has to watch the world burn.
Yeah, great pickup there from Tarzan. He's able to secure the Drake. They're able to secure the fight, and they should be able to secure the Baron with this one as well. This is why I was so hesitant about FPX walking up to this one. I just didn't feel like they have the power in their inventory right now to try and contest it. LNG in our 3rd game with that best early game they've performed in this series so far.
Being consistent throughout. Let's watch again. They're going to Baron in live, but buying time, and then watch Lwandy, watch Tarzan as usual.
Yeah, exactly. And then you talk about it, Lwandy, and then Tarzan afterwards. The 4-man actually did. It's the charge with the angle he has on it that kind of lets him get that knockup to come through. Now it's actually the Wild Growth, my bad, and gets the 4-man knockup from Icon there. Really lovely to see. Okay.
Well, I guess we didn't miss anything. Tien tried to flash in, ladies and gentlemen, but Baron went over to LNG. So this feels like you're putting it in the too hard basket at this point. Guldbord, we started out looking at FPX's comeback. Game 2 was theirs to win, but Game 3 is definitely LNG's to take away.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone, this is LNG's game. It's only them that can lose this now. It's on to them. And I think with the pickups they've now secured in the Baron buff, and with the pressure they should be able to put out on these lanes, it should only be a matter of time before these tier 2 turrets should be started to be picked up. And for you right now, you just want to make sure that you choke out FPX as much as possible in their jungle right now. With the pressure you should be able to get in lane, don't let them have any leverage. Don't let them get anything to get back into this game. And you can see they're trying to punish Nuguri now.
Oh, they've sandwiched him. Tien trying to come in. True Shot Barrage is quite nice as Nuguri denies the Shuriken flip. First part of the needlework. He's got one more. Out again. Perfect execution. Tarzan takes himself a Chains of Corruption, but he's even a tanky boy. He's got a GA too. And LNG just turn that with the Baron buff and say, okay, a lot of ultimates are now down. We can push mid.
Yeah, they most certainly can. They don't have the biggest minion wave, but it is Baron up minions, and you do have a Lulu to help you with the attack speed. They should be able to pick up this top turret, or mid turret rather, as Doinb is back in from top lane and very aggressive from like Ian forward here. I don't think they need to play as aggressive as they are. They can play this very cautious, and they can play it by the book.
Or they could try and end the game. I like LPL. Lights moving forward and LNG burning the TP. They definitely want to end. Everfrost has used Solar Flare on 3 people as well. Remember that Hijack is on cooldown from Doinb. That's a big ulti, and he already stole the Wild Growth. Wants something like the quickness here, but Baron minion doing work. Look at the back end. More minions coming in, Guldbord.
There is no way they're actually going to be trying to siege this one. Solar Flares and cooldown. Paranoia's just waiting a few seconds, and Needlework did just come out from Nuguri, so this looks like the final stand for FPX if they keep going with this one.
Zenith Blade, Paranoia into the backline, but Crisp is burnt immediately down. FPX are diving in. Tien tries his mightiest, but Doinb can't even do a thing. Ale under turret, goes invulnerable for a moment. Doinb jumping in, but taken down. And LNG at the door of FPX's base may have done it. Onto Chris. They need a knockup. They need a kill, and they'll find it. The Phoenix doesn't fly today. It's about leaning, sitting on top of the table at the end of week 2.
And Hysterics, if you had told me at the start of LPL that LNG would be sitting at the top of the table undefeated 4-0, even as a fan, I would have told you, why are you playing with my feelings? Why are you lying to me? Why are you getting my hopes up? But this is not a dream, Hysterics. This is reality. And they just beat out FPX, giving them their first loss and remaining undefeated themselves.
You know, I love when I'm wrong. I love when I'm wrong because it means that something beautiful's happened. I put LNG low in the standings. My power rankings at the start of the split. And boy, was I wrong. LNG have come into this split so damn strong. Ale up in the top lane. Has been a joy to watch this series. Icon as well, having a stable split. But the leader in the jungle, the man they photoshopped as James Bond with a real-life handgun, is bringing that handgun onto the Rift and showing that he's a jungler to watch.
And this is really bringing joy to my heart. The fact that the pictures we're seeing on a screen right now, how happy they are on the side of LNG, smiling as well. Because I remember seeing them getting knocked out in spring playoffs and how demoralized the faces was. 17-minute loss was what was handed to them. And this time around, they are looking quite unstoppable heading further into the LPL during this summer split.
They are, and they sit on top of the standings. Now, of course, EDG can match them here, but at the end of the day, they'll be sitting there nevertheless at 4-0 or 4-1. And it makes us real excited for RNG coming up this Sunday as well. That didn't even look like a good match on paper, but now RNG, they're going to return to OMG tomorrow, but against LNG, I'm really excited for that one. Feels like a natural match of the week, and this one definitely delivered. If we're talking match of the weeks, I mean, this wasn't one, but FPX versus LNG Guildbord, an absolute pleasure to cast.
They made it one. And once again, my debut, and this is the last series I get to end on here. I could not have asked for more. And as an LNG fan, it's just crazy. I am extremely happy with the outcome. And we talked about it at the start of the day, Hysterics, how with the schedule that LNG has had so far, it kind of felt like a stairs with skills. They kind of went up and above. They started out with V5, went on to BLG, then JDG, now FPX that they have beaten. And now a big step awaits them when they'll have to try their forces against the like of MSI champion, RNG.
I mean, they've beaten one champion. What is another? It doesn't matter about recent form or not. It is tragic though. Let's start with FPX. Let's wrap the present and then put it under the tree and see who opens it next, because FPX in game 2, that was their game to win. It looked like a 2-0, however competitive, and it all got thrown away. And in this game, through the top side, through the early plays, they got beaten. They got out rotated, and through the bottom lane dives a couple of times there, Tarzan and Lwandy just gave everything to lighten Ale on a platter.
It also felt like some of the members were not on the same page. I feel like Doinb was doing a good job at always trying to cross-map whenever he really could. But we still saw them try to contest that third Drake, where, in all honesty, you don't need to do that. It would have been LNG's first Drake, but because you lost out on that fight, you got aced, you lost Baron, and inevitably it just gave LNG the game out of nowhere, where I really felt like they still had a lot of tools in their composition to work with. They still hadn't hit their spikes. And it just came down to the decision making this time around. FPX to me still remains a bit shaky, but once again very strong when they're finally ahead. We saw what they did in game 1, we saw what they did in game 2 with their early game, but in game 3 everything just fell apart for them.
It did, and it's a shame, right? And moving onward from FPX, last point I want to put out there is the fact that FPX will be versing TT on Saturday, so it is a bit of an uplifter for them, a bit of a booster, hopefully that they perform in that series. Like, that'll be a different question. But then they have to get back up on it. It's WE, RNG after that. So for FPX, the trials definitely don't end here. And going up against LNG today has shown us that this team still has some of the issues that were shown in spring, but are definitely going to have to put that together by the time we get to next week.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, there's still a lot of good matchups awaiting, not only these teams, but tomorrow we also get to see RNG for the first time, which is going to be an absolute banger, really, as well.
Finally
first
back.
game, they've not been put in the schedule yet, so I can't wait to see them go live in the Rift as well.
I mean, that's exciting just because OMG are also not looking too bad at the moment. I mean, they're sitting 1-1, so a nice little test for OMG after they beat IG the other day, which was also a bit of a barn burner. We'll talk a little bit more about for the matchups. I just want to round out with LNG and look towards MVP for this series. I think if we're bringing the whole series together, it needs to be Tarzan. Tarzan for me was absolutely brilliant. Even though Lwandy is a very close second, I think Tarzan has played this series so magnificently well, like he had the previous series. That's why we did such a good highlight on it.
I completely agree. I think Tarzan is someone you can go for. I think Ale as well in all the games in today's series as well was really important and pivotal in what they were able to achieve. You can argue it's the fact that he had 2 Akali games, but putting that aside, he still did really well on towards the Camille. And Icon as well, to me, has been very shaky in the past, especially in spring. Seeing him go for different styles with the Ryze, with the LeBlanc, with the Lulu, that's 3 different styles of play you bring onto the table. And he still did fairly decent with all of them, just doing whatever there's needed of him in the team. And I think that takes a lot of you. That takes a humility and selfless. So Tarzan can go for a more selfish playstyle himself.
You know the issue that I had with Icon in the past. You talk about previous splits, but Icon back on OMG was just, it felt like a burden. Team had to play around Icon, and the players that were on the roster back then just didn't feel like they synergized well with him. This has taken a good split because you're right, last split Icon wasn't great on this roster, and I think all of LNG was still coming together last split as well. They made playoffs, but they were our weakest playoff team by far, if you don't want to count IG, but IG is, like arriving to a birthday party 3 days late. The schedule's screwed up, and you're like, well, we're going to have to leave this. Analogy doesn't make too much sense there, but anyway, the point is, LNG have improved vastly, a massive amount, and it's not just against some of the weaker teams in the league. It started against V5, but it's JDG, now it's FPX. I really wonder how they go against some of the other top teams, because right now, LNG's a pick for me that I would say, I feel like at this level of play, you're a top 6 team. I want to go hard on that, and as Lwandy picks up MVP in this game, I can not stop giving praise to this team who have come such a long way in the matter of an off-season.
Yeah, and I mean, giving Lwandy the MVP specifically for this game in Game 3 does make sense as well. We talked about it as well. He did gap Crisp, and that's not a conversation that we usually had in spring, ever. Sometimes we would talk about it when he was on a signature pick like the Alistar early in the season, but this time around on the Rakan together with the Ezreal, just making the utmost of it, really. We talk about the creative engages he was able to utilize, and he was pivotal in them just going for every dive that they did. That, honestly speaking, I don't think they should have worked, but Lwandy, Tarzan, they make it work.
An Icon playing his role. I love that point you brought up. You know, on the Lulu here, he gets the wild growth off and LNG can play the fight longer. Lwandy with the gleaming quill as he uses Battle Dance. He's at an angle, he still hits it and gives the HP and shielding that Light needs to survive the fight. It's gorgeous stuff. Even here, watch this. It's a 4-man knock-up in the end as well. Doinb able to dodge that one away. I'm not sure how, but still. LNG relying on this support. Lwandy's been great for a while. He's had a huge champion pool as well. And when he goes to the normal stuff, the things like Rakan, he still pops off. So great to see him rewarded with an MVP there. And sky's the limit for LNG, Guldbord. You got a banging series to start off your LPL casting career. I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that you're going to be coming back, but you're coming back. We know you are. You're coming back on Saturday. So looking forward to that. Let's have a look through today. Anyone missed out, maybe they're watching a different league, which was wrong of them.